All or nothing. That's the stakes this week for the Cleveland Browns. For everybody else, this is week 17. For the Cleveland Browns, this might as well be the wild card round, the play-in game. This is the opportunity that we've been waiting for as Browns fans since 2002. All or nothing. Playoff stakes. Meaningful football in the month of January. High stakes football in the month of January. That's what this week is. All or nothing. And the question, after a very disappointing loss to the New York Jets and a very circumstantial loss, there were a lot of things that came into that, a lot of factors that came into it, but a lot of things that weren't really affected by that. That's why you lost that game. The question is, how can this team bounce back to win this game? And also, what do they need to improve to continue to win more games as we are in the part of the season where your next loss means your season is over? This is what we've been waiting for. This is privileged territory, Cleveland Browns fans. We have been waiting 20 years to be in this moment, and here we are. So, let's talk about it. Before I get into this video, I want to make sure I give a shout out to the Dog Check tier Patreon members. And as always, I start with Michael Matique, Greg Ealer, Seth Harrison, Corporal Nick Lopez, Nick Nasty, Mandela Moore, the only Browns fan in Wisconsin, Batman, Jake Phillips, Rush Shear, Barack Kumar, John Alver, Masayua, Budza Roland, Ethan Rindauer, James Nemo, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Justin Cole, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Timothy McClure, Keith Anderson, Joshua Still, Sean Barron, Gagos Pisano, Dom Gazzulo, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Anthony Latham, Christian, Matt Bond, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Soul Train, Charles Work, Dan in West Texas, Billy, Michael Holdenack, Jared Austin, Dylon W, Josh Bendor, Dylan Hell, Andrew Sedejo, David Maldonado, Chad Gimme, Rex Kaufman, Edrin Hall, James McGinley, Brody Cook, Moose Gentry, Patrick F, Austin Z, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, IT Rex, Austin Bolin, Jesus Serrano, Joshua Paulus, Chris Fawns, Pick Down Browns Backers, Mark Kahn, Max Al Dojo, Beerman 069, SSJ Swift, Andrew Hirsch, Feeling Dangerous 113, Dave Mike May, John Cummings, Robert Jermaine, Cleveland BCI, Anthony O, Bobo Regretti, Stuart Moore, TJ Showman on cue, Mark M, Jalil Salim Sr., Martha Crusnut, Ryan T, Jonathan Fredericks, CK, Eric Green, Joseph Stevens, and Water Bear Marketing. Again, guys, thank you so much for your support. Also, if you're interested, later today, for the end of the year, I know it's New Year's Eve, we're ready to get rid of this god-awful year, 2020. It's been terrible no matter who you are. So to do this in style, and since, 2020 is 2020, we can't really do this how we normally do this, I am going to live stream the end of this year, the 2020 live stream tonight. It starts at 9 p.m. It will go into 2021. I don't know how much longer. We're going to be celebrating the end of the year, playing video games, doing whatever it is you guys want to do. Come hang out with me for the end of 2020 and christen the new year, talking Browns, talking video games, having drinks. I know a lot of people can't celebrate this how they normally want to, so I'll try to bring a little bit of that experience to you tonight. It's one night only, and this stream will not be archived on this channel, so if you miss it, and you'll never see it. So check that out tonight. That will be pretty fun. But without further ado, let's get into this breakdown. All right, since so little is known about who's actually going to play in this game, I find it hard to do my normal type of breakdown where I have all the stats and what this team normally does. We don't know who's playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like they're backups. There's not a lot of statistical information on them. And we don't even know who's going to be playing for the Cleveland Browns side because, it's still happening. But what I can do is go over the defensive side of the ball for the Cleveland Browns and the offensive side of the ball and just in general talk about things that they have to fix if they want to continue to win games in the month of January and going forward. So that being said, I'm going to start with the defense. All right. You know what I'm about to say here with the defense. You know my pet peeve with this defense. You know the number one thing I'm going to say the defense needs to fix: communication and alignment. It's been awful all year. It's been on like this bell curve where it was this bad to start the year, and then it got less and less bad, and then right now it's up here again. So we need that to dip back down. Now, how is that going to be fixed? BJ Goodson coming back, if he gets a chance to come back, because if you don't win this week, you can forget about BJ coming back this season because you won't have a season. So BJ maybe coming back might help that. I think another thing that could help it is giving Ronnie Harrison the green dot for this week. He is your best and smartest football player. He's one of the handful of guys on this roster who don't have alignment issues consistently or communication issues. He's somebody that I believe can be a trendsetter in that way. This is what he was great in at Alabama, where he was the team captain, the team defensive play caller in Alabama. Despite all the talent that they had on the field, he was that guy because he's normally the smartest defender on any field that he plays on. Now, that helps with alignment. I think he can also help with communication, because I think when it comes to communication, and anybody who's worked anywhere, right, or been in any type of team situation knows that when it comes to communication, it really just becomes contagious, either a lack of communication or a over exuberance of communication, right? I've been in work environments, in a team environment where everybody is talking and shouting out everything to make sure that every single little move is communicated and there is no miscommunication. I've been in other environments where nobody talks. It is contagious. It takes one person to really get into talking to get everybody else into that communication type rhythm. I think the same issue is going on here, because when you look at the Browns' leaders on defense, it's been Denzel Ward, it's been Myles Garrett. Those two are not the most vocal individuals, and when they're leading the defense, they're not going to talk as much because they're used to being able to handle their own thing and do their own thing without having to worry about what everybody else is doing. That's good for them, but when it comes to the rest of the team, it has its adverse effects, and that's why when you have a BJ Goodson out and a Ronnie Harrison out, it becomes a problem, because I'm willing to bet that BJ, Ronnie, and maybe Malcolm Smith are probably the most vocal guys on the defense when it comes to communication. All of a sudden, you don't have those two guys on the field. You have two of your loudest communicators not out there. People aren't communicating as much. People aren't calling things out as much. You know, they'll call out the big things, the things they're supposed to, but maybe they're not calling out the small details. And that's how you get all of this congestion, where you have guys just running into each other, taking the wrong responsibility, because it's something that builds on top of each other. It is contagious, and it is much like a snowball going downhill. The more you talk, the better and bigger that communication gets, and also the less you talk, the bigger and more that problem starts to exist in a team environment, especially when you're playing football on a defense. That's something that hopefully help is on the way. Ronnie Harrison is very vocal. Maybe that trickles on down to everybody else so you can get these communication problems down pat, because you need to fix them right now. Also, another thing and a note for the defense, it cannot continue to just be the Myles and Denzel show. Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are great players, but they're not always going to be putting on Superman-type performances. You have been lucky that Myles Garrett for about 8 weeks this season was Superman, and Denzel Ward for about 9 weeks this season was a Superman at defensive back, but they're not always going to be that. And when that's the case, you need your Terrence Mitchells to step up. You need your Carl Josephs to step up. You need your Larry Ogunjobis and Olivier Vernons to step up. Now, Olivier Vernon, to his credit, has stepped up in the absence of Myles Garrett. Sheldon Richardson has stepped up in the absence of Myles Garrett, so I'm calling on them to step up yet again. Defensive backs have not stepped up without Denzel Ward being there. Maybe Terrence Mitchell in some points has in that way, but nobody else has. So it cannot continue to be the Myles and Denzel show. We need other guys to step up. We cannot have it just be on Myles, just be on Denzel. That's way too narrow to beat really good teams, even if they're resting their starters. That's it, really. The Browns defense is not good, but the things that they can do to fix themselves, to get on a better track, it's really not overly complicated or too hard to fix at this point, right? The miscommunication stuff, that's just a habit that needs to be grown within the defense. Now, why has it gone 16 weeks and this has been the case? I don't know. But that being said, Ask Baltimore last year. Communication was a huge problem. They brought in 2 veterans who all they did was communicate, over-communicate on defense. It fixed their communication issue. It's really that simple. I know it sounds mundane, but it's really that simple when it comes to that alignment. You need a smart play in there. Green dot probably needs to go to Ronnie Harrison. I think that'll fix alignment. If they can communicate just a little better and get aligned properly, this defense is going to look much better. They're not going to be good. They're not going to shut down anybody. They're not going to be top 10, top 15, or anything like that. But they'll be good enough to get you enough stops to get the ball to your offense to be able to score more points without bleeding so much on the other side. That's what we need out of this defense, and it's so possible with the personnel you have, because when you look at other bad defenses and you look at the roster for other bad defenses, Browns roster is pretty good for being as bad as a defense that they are. So these things, these issues that they have, it's not really talent related. It's just a lot of bad habits on defense that need to start to be broken right now. And that's the hope, right? The Browns defense is not hopeless. It's not unfixable. It just hasn't been sound throughout the season. And maybe 1 or 2 things can happen that can get them to a more sound level, because if they are, they can be much better. All right, now let's talk about the offense. Now, I am not going to be overly concerned with what happened in the New York game in some elements, right? The Browns not being able to pass the ball efficiently against the New York Jets with no wide receivers. It would be impossible for me to just all of a sudden have a revelation about Baker Mayfield when he's throwing to Jamarcus Brantley and Marvin Hall. It's just not realistic. So I don't think much needs to change there or much needs to happen there. I think Baker has proven that he can carry the team offensively. He's done it for like 4 weeks. And that's one of the things that I think needs to be talked about more. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Jedrick Wills, Wyatt Teller, all 4 of those guys need to be able to play, need to be healthy, and need to step it up a little bit more. Now, Wyatt Teller doesn't need to step it up. He just needs to be healthy. But the other 3 need to step it up a little bit more, because quietly the run game, it hasn't been the same for a couple of weeks here. I mean, you go back to that New York Giants game, it was really all Baker while you scored all those points against New York. The Baltimore game, same thing. Now, that was a little bit more of a shootout situation, and you did utilize your running backs as receivers in that game. But if we're just talking about straight carries, they didn't really do much in that game. It's really been since Jacksonville, and even in the Jacksonville game, it wasn't necessarily their most efficient performance. They just had a couple of long runs at the end of the game. For the Browns, that run game getting reestablished is absolutely going to be paramount. Now, it's going to be tough sledding because the Steelers really don't let anybody run on them. I know they let Giovanni Bernard run all over them that one Monday Night Football game, but they have a large sample size this season of not letting anybody else run. I think they held Derrick Henry like 87 yards. They have consistently stopped the run all season. Now, they have not stopped the read option all season, but like the Browns don't have the personnel to be able to do the read option, and this ain't the week to just pull out the read option when you haven't been able to practice that much. So I wouldn't expect that. I would expect the Browns to start running the ball out of shotgun a little bit more, maybe actually trying to hit the edge a little bit more since they got their healthy guys back, instead of just all power runs, all runs out the I formation and single back. I would like to see more variety in the run game, more diversity in how they dial up these runs. I think it's starting to become a little bit predictable. Again, I know what Baker can do out this offense in the shotgun and under center. He's been pretty good the last few weeks under both situations when he's had a full complement, or not even a full complement, just NFL wide receivers to his disposal there. So this week, really offensively, I'm going to be watching the offensive line because that's where the hopes for the Browns are going to rely. If they want to win games in the playoffs, that offensive line, when it comes to run blocking, is going to have to play at a more physical and more dominant level that they haven't played to in quite a while. So we need that to come back. We need this to be the big bully offensive line that they were in the earlier parts of this season. We need that back for this Browns team to reach its potential for the postseason if they can make it. All right, so that's my thoughts on the offense. I already talked about the defense. Let's go into the final take. All right, so this is it, man. This is the playoffs for the Browns. This is where it starts. A game against Pittsburgh at home. You get your play-in game at home. That's lucky. But what we're going to find out about this team is who they are, what they are in the biggest moments, and what they aren't. Now, I think I have a pretty good idea of what they are. I think they have had some big moments this season where they've showed up big. It just so happens that they're coming off probably one of their lowest moments, if not the lowest moment of the entire season. But again, you can have low moments in a season. It doesn't really matter if you bounce back from them. Are people really going to be talking about that Pittsburgh loss to Cincinnati past last week? No, because Pittsburgh bounced back and won the very next week. So the Browns can make that Jets loss as memorable or as forgettable as anything else in this season. It's up to them. And that's the key thing this week. It's up to the Browns. Are you going to make the playoffs? It's really up to you. The Steelers aren't necessarily pulling out all the stops to try to stop you this week. You're at home. You might have some adversity when it comes to the virus, but it's still up to you. At this point, it was up to you last week, even though you had everything else going on, because you still had a chance to win that game last week. It's up to the Browns. This is it. Win and you're in. Playoff football. It's not something to be afraid of, Browns fans. I see a lot of Browns fans living in their fear. Oh, I'm worried that Pittsburgh's going to ruin it again. Who cares? This is the moment we've been waiting for a while. A win in your end game in January and against the Steelers nonetheless. Get excited for it. Embrace it. This is what you watch all of these games for it to mean something at this point of the season, for week 17 to actually mean something. Win and you're in, all or nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, the playoffs are starting early in Cleveland, and it's time to see if these Browns are ready for some playoff stakes. That's what we're going to learn about this team on Sunday. But that's my thoughts on this game. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.